Welcome back to the Pastor's Podcast. Pastor Scott here with Pastor Jose. Good morning, Pastor Jose.
Hey, good morning, Scott. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Yes, doing well.
We were just talking about how this is there's a lot going on this time of year.
Yes, it is. It is. With the Christmas celebrations and everything seems to come together all at once.
Yeah. It kind of takes, for whatever reason, the rest of normal life doesn't slow down near as much as the Christmas activities ramp up.
Yes.
And so it just kind of adds to,
yes, exactly.
to everything else. Maybe we should just put like a moratorium on
activities.
Yeah. Either normal life or Christmas activities, something like that. I don't think the schools are out for 2 weeks. I don't think that's enough. I think they need the whole month of December off. And although some parents are like, no.
That's what we do. That's when we have our vacation time in Guatemala.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the last 3 months of the year.
The last 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, but is that like akin to our summer break?
Yes, exactly.
Like, so that's the big break of the year.
That's the real break of the year.
Oh.
It's because we have a lot of summer, so.
So this is actually what we're going to be talking about today, since we're entering into this and celebrating this season of Advent. I know that all of different parts of our church family come from different backgrounds, right. celebrate Advent and have celebrated Christmas differently. And I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit, and both on reflections on the meaning, on why Advent is meaningful, but also just hear a little bit about your story and what Christmas celebrations have looked like, both growing up and in your adult life. Because I know like for all of us, they look different in different seasons in life and in different places. And so maybe I'd love to maybe start going back to your upbringing in Guatemala.
Mm-hmm.
What did Christmas celebration look like for you growing up?
Yes, that's well, in a sense, it's very similar to the American celebration, because we get a lot of the American culture in Guatemala. Mm. Yeah, we have Christmas. You exchange gifts. You have the Christmas tree. The content is similar, but what makes it different is because back then, when I was growing up, we have a Catholic background, a cultural Catholic background, that it tainted how we celebrated Christmas.
Okay, so it was a lot of the kind of externals were very Americanized, and what I hear you saying in that is in the secular American version of of celebration, kind of combined with the cultural Catholicism.
Exactly.
Okay, so what did that? What did that result in? Like, how did the mixture of the kind of cultural Catholicism and the secular Western, I don't know, pieces of a tree and the some of those traditions?
Yes.
How did they mix for your family growing up?
I just remember right now, when I was a kid, before I became a Christian, there was a tradition in Guatemala, and I know there is also a tradition in other Latin American countries, that we call it posadas. Posada is a dwelling place, which there will be a group of people carrying the Virgin Mary in their shoulders and looking for a dwelling place for the Virgin Mary and Jesus. So, and it was an honor that the posada will come to your house.
Oh.
That's very Catholic. And then what you were supposed to have, atole, drinks, coffee, chocolate, hot chocolate. It does get chilly in Guatemala. It's very high altitude. So, and pan dulce, and some people, the very devout people, will have tamales and a lot of food and fruits and everything. So, and then you will see I mean, it wasn't just a few people, not just the one carrying the in their shoulders, the procession, right? No, sometimes it will be 20, 30, 40 people behind it, and you open your house. So you open the
And
garage.
you're welcoming everybody in.
Everybody in. So you prepare yourself. So, but they will tell you beforehand to the leaders where they were going to seek dwelling.
Yeah. Now these days in Culver City, we just get the police department bringing Santa Claus around.
That's right.
So it's a little different, but we're still there's some similarities, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were there any Christmas gifts that you received as a child that stand out that were particularly memorable?
Yes, I do remember going with my mom to my aunt's business. She had a business of it was like a mini store. They had everything, and there was a suit, a cowboy suit, with a hat, with a vest, with shorts, with boots, and a
holster.
A holster, yes, and it was silver. The suit, I remember, and the shorts, and I really wanted that, and unbeknownst to me, my mom bought it for me, and I was wearing that thing everywhere I went.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love this picture.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know you as a child, so all I can do is picture you as an adult in this silver cowboy outfit.
It was shiny silver.
Oh man.
I don't know if it was a Lone Ranger for a kid. That's or Gunsmoke, one of those two.
Something like this.
But I think it was probably the Lone Ranger and the high silver, but it was shorts with
so
boots.
Awesome. Oh, that's so great. That's so great. Oh man, the joy of Christmas morning right there.
Yeah.
So what was Christmas dinner like growing up?
It was fun. It was an event. You will have the whole family will pick a house to spend Christmas. The grandma, she was the one that was alive, but when grandpa was alive, they will decide to whose house they will go, and sometimes they will pick my house. My dad, we will prepare everything. Sometimes we'll meet at the farm because it got so big. I mean, I have 11 aunts and uncles on one side and 12 on another side. So having 50 to 70 people, just family, cousins, it was average. Yeah. So we'll go to the farm as the family start getting old, larger, and we will celebrate Christmas in the farm. And sometimes we'll kill a cow or pigs, chickens. And there were tamales, there was carne asada, there was a lot of food and everything. And then the tradition was that after that, 2 days after everybody, after getting drunk, they are more back to their senses, we'll go to the beach house, which was like a half an hour away from the farm. It was a big bamboo shack. The floor was sand, and it had a lot of hammocks, so you sleep in hammocks, and we'll spend all the way until New Year's there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, talk about a family reunion.
Yeah. It was. I remember. I mean, it was. There was food and everything. Fruits. I mean, we had. It was just amazing. Yeah. I remember those days. Actually, a quick anecdote. My uncle, when he built his house, he built because the old part of the house was where they grew up, and it was dilapidated, and. So he built a new house for my grandma, and it was huge. Each family had a room, and the room was like the size of 3 rooms here in the States.
Oh my God.
And the whole living room was huge, like half the court of a basketball.
Oh my gosh.
Or no, probably the full court. Yeah. For those purposes, yeah.
Wow. So remind everyone how old you were when you moved to the States.
I was 17 years old.
You're 17.
16. I came here when I was 16 in October, and then turned 17.
Okay. How did I mean, obviously, celebration of Christmas
Right.
changed
Yes.
significantly when
Yeah.
you came to the States. What did it look like after coming here?
Yeah. So in Guatemala, we'll have Jesus, the statues of Jesus, Mary, and the nativity scene that was very Catholic. And there were gifts. And then by the time I came here, I was already Christian. So in Guatemala, Christianity, the evangelical movement, what they did was those are idols, so they start taking those out. And then I came back here, and I will see them, and they were Christian brothers and sisters. Like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay, actually,
confusing.
yeah. Okay, so actually, let's take a step back before we talk about the transition here.
Right.
How did your celebration of Christmas change when you became a Christian?
Yes, yeah. So when we became a Christians, then the nativity scenery, the
nativity got
out of the window.
Oh,
yeah, because idolatry, having images,
God, they were seen as idols.
And and the evangelical movement come very strong against that because there was a culture of idolatry in Guatemala. So that went out of the window, and then even the decorations on the trees got sparse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the gifts were there, but there were some people who were more radical, not even gifts, because it wasn't in the Bible.
Oh,
yeah.
So did a lot of your family become Christian at the same time?
No, actually, we were the first part of the whole family who became Christians on both sides.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did your family navigate this, trying to celebrate what had been just a very cultural family holiday? How did your family work to infuse it with the kind of ultimate spiritual meaning, or were they able to do that?
No, it was. That's a good question, because it wasn't. Christmas was not focused in looking at Christ or remembering Christ. Mm-hmm. It was just a cultural event. Mm-hmm. You have the baby there and the Virgin Mary and Joseph and the animals and all that stuff, but there was no prayer, there was no connection, there was no remembering of Christ. It was just, oh, okay, we're celebrating something.
What would the family even go to Mass?
We didn't go to Mass because we weren't that hardcore Catholics.
Yeah. So it really was just really specifically a family. It was a family celebration.
It was a family celebration for us, and I suspect that the rest of my family, there could have been some who were more deep into Catholicism, but most of us, no, we were just the same. It was just a cultural celebration. It's like no significance.
What was it? Like, I want to ask if it was hard or difficult to try to infuse that type of celebration then with this more genuine spiritual meaning. But it sounds like you kind of did that by taking things away.
we had things away because our pastors would preach about that. And I remember they started making connections for us that Christmas was about Christ. Yeah. And this was in the time. It's interesting because we start having my first pastor was from Texas. He was born in Guatemala, but he grew up in Texas. My second pastor was also from Texas, but he was American, white American. So we had a lot of missionaries, just to say that. We had a lot of missionaries coming from United States. This was in a time that, in that time, I will say, in the early 70s and 80s, it was, probably Guatemala was 80% Catholic. And now that has reversed, comparing evangelicals and Catholics. Yeah, there was a, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so as they were helping you to grow and celebrate Christmas, it sounds like a lot of what they were doing was trying to pull people away from the traditional, some of the traditions because they were so infused with
Right.
either idolatry or
Mhm.
things like that. What was there any? Were there any new either traditions or celebrations that developed as you all became Christians?
In Guatemala?
Yeah, or even going to church as a part of Christmas, or was that not?
Yeah, there will be a church. There will be a church a sermon. Yeah, by the 25th.
Okay.
Yeah, that we will get together and hear the preaching. And the preaching was about Jesus's Christmas, basically, right? It was about correcting that idea, taking it from a cultural event to more Christ-centered event, and that's where the connections first started for me, and realizing, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
You know, I think that's so interesting because I think that for a lot of us that maybe didn't grow up in that same culture or even that same kind of culture, I think I would probably assume that since there's such a heavy Catholic culture, that the celebration of Christmas was always infused with Christ to some extent because of the culture underlying that. But what I hear you saying is that at least for you, at least for your family, it was almost more influenced by the secular vision of Christmas
Right.
than it was even the religious version of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, and actually, I feel like I've seen that across the world in different places where the Western secular trappings of Christmas, we've exported those very well.
Yes, yes.
and there's all sorts of aspects of them that cultures, completely different cultures, have similarity and glom onto because of that. That's really interesting. Okay, so in a lot of ways, a lot of the correction going on, or a lot of the growth was kind of stripping away or stripping down Christmas to this humble core in a sense. And then you came to the United States.
Right.
And so, yeah, so what was that like? All of a sudden you were seeing nativities again, you said.
Yes, I was seeing, I will go to Christians' homes and I will see nativities again. It's like, don't they know? And then, I mean, I wouldn't say anything, right? I'm in another country. I wasn't in my country. It wasn't my country yet. I was not in my own house. So I would just look, it's like, oh, okay. And yeah. Yeah, that was a little bit, yeah. But then they will notice that they will pray. They will pray, and there will be a prayer because I was Christian. I was going to a Christian church, and I got invited by Christian brothers. So they will pray, and they will give thanks to God for everybody who was there. Thanks for me, and so well, that's new. It's like we didn't do this back home. So yeah, those were they even had. I do remember they even had a gift for me. Because they knew that we were coming. They invited us. Yeah. And that was very loving, right? Thoughtful. That was not the way I grew up. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So actually, it makes me want to ask is, do you think that understanding of even physical nativities as idols or as an issue of idolatry, is that common among our particularly first generation immigrants from Latin American countries? Was that just your experience, or is that something that if someone in our church family came over to my house, and when they come over to my house, they see the nativities, the dozen nativities that we have set up, different places that we've collected over the years. Do you think that's a question they would have in their mind? Or do you think that was unique to your experience?
No, I think there's depending on the background, but those are I'm assuming that the impact of the evangelical church was very similar in many Latin American countries.
Yeah,
and it was the impact was very wide to the point that, for example, right now when I go to Guatemala, I go to some families, family visit. They're Christians, but there's no even gifts because gifts are not biblical. They were given to Jesus, but they're not to be exchanged. And that's commercialization, and that started long ago. And there's a lot of history and anecdotes and a lot of misinformation about how that happened. So they don't even do that. So it's a wide range.
Of experiences.
Of experiences, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how has your experience of Christmas or your celebration of Christmas developed over the last 30 years? I mean, the majority of your life has been lived here in Los Angeles. Has it been fairly consistent, or has your celebration of Christmas developed over your time here?
Yeah, it has been developing into being more Christ-centered. For example, like the having Advent, right? Waiting for Christ. That even when I came here to the States, we didn't have that. I started having that here in with Cornerstone when we started and when we merged, and I thought, you know what, that's in the Bible, to expect for His second coming and everything. So that's something that really has giving more of a true meaning and that focused for Christmas, who is Christ, and to connect that to the mind. And to have a deeper awareness that He's coming back. So it's almost, it's not the same, of course, right? But it's like a communion, right? We remember what He did in the past for us. This is, in a sense, like what He's going to be doing for us in the future, right? Coming back for His church. Yeah. So it's like a communion seeing forward, in a sense. So it's not so much that we're remembering Him, but we're expecting Him. So I guess it's almost the next part, right?
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I think that for all of us, the cultures and the families that we come from shape how we need to grow in a lot of ways. And even especially when it comes to cultural or family-centric celebrations like Christmas, there are always increasingly specific things that maybe need to be corrected, maybe need to be maturity needs to be applied to. As you are walking with the people in Cornerstone Espanol, what are some of the common reminders regarding Christmas, or ways that you are hoping people will grow in their understanding or celebration of Christmas?
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's cultivating that awareness around Christmas, that He's coming back, that He came for a purpose to this earth, and He accomplished all of that. But it does something. It contributes. We know that we're not alone. But knowing that He's going to coming back for us to live for the rest of eternity together with Him, that adds another level of intimacy, I think. So the way we try to do it is by also doing the Advent. What we do in our English speaking family, we do the same. We translate most of the stuff, and we skip a little bit shorter. And also we prepare a package for them that they can do at home with their families. It's similar to your package, if not the same, but sometimes it's a little bit shorter. But basically, meditate in the scriptures, read the scripture with 3 questions in mind, very similar to what we do in English. Yeah.
Okay, so it makes me wonder if 17-year-old Jose showed up to our church today and said, "Pastor, I'm really concerned because everybody has these nativities. They have idols in their homes, and they're giving gifts, right? And I'm not sure, they should be giving gifts because that's secular. It's commercialism, right?
Yep.
What would what would you tell 17-year-old Jose if he was worried about these things? Or would you tell him, you're right, let's let's correct them all.
Well,
Let's get rid of them all.
yeah, no, the first thing I'll say is like, is there anything inherent wrong or sinful about giving gifts? Right? The nature of giving a gift is good, right? I mean, and I will say, hey, do you have a birthday? He says, yes. Do you get gifts from your parents? Yes. So what's wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's more the heart behind it, and I think now I will be better prepared to saying, hey, listen, the way we see Christmas is to remind us that Christ came and He's going to come back for us. So it is refocusing the gaze from this earthly celebration, commercialized celebration, and putting them on the one that it should be. That's so.
Yeah.
So say, yeah, we're in the same side. I will tell him, Jose, we're in the same side.
I think it's hard actually for a lot of us sometimes to refocus our gaze because no matter what culture you come from, I think there's inevitably secular trappings, secular traditions, things that kind of get us distracted. Even, I mean, like we were talking about at the beginning, even the busyness of the season, even all the tradition of all the gatherings can be distracting. How would you want to help people, what would you want to tell people, whether in Cornerstone Español, Cornerstone Inglés, Cornerstone Farsi, how would you want to encourage them what would you say to them to encourage them to keep a focus on Christ?
That's a good question. First of all, let me come clean. As you're asking the question, I'm thinking, I do remember I am Christ-centered when it comes to Sunday mornings. Right? I have the Advent reminds me of that. We're going to start doing the package in my family. But then during the week, because of business and because of good work that we're doing for the Lord and all those things, it very natural tends to fall to the side. So what I was thinking right now is like, okay, let me come clean with that. And then it's like, what can I do? Sometimes I use mnemonic devices to remind me of good things. And Christmas is everywhere, right? The colors are everywhere. The symbols are everywhere. So I wonder if we were to whenever we walk around and we hear the word and everything, if we will train our minds to remember and to take it back to Christ. It's it's an area really that I haven't grown as much. Cultivating awareness of Christ in my life. There's many areas that He has done a good work, but this one, that's why I don't think I have a good answer for you.
Well, Jose, I really appreciate that because I think that it reminds us of the way in which Christ is piece by piece reclaiming every part of our heart and every part of life, and that's an ongoing journey for all of us. It's really interesting that as you were describing that, I was imagining the old cultural warrior saying, right, put Christ back in Christmas.
Yes,
And I think that's been utilized in a kind of cultural context in a way. And I'm not sure if the need is greater in culture, or if the need is actually greater in our hearts, right? And I don't mean that to make it overly cheesy, but I think there's a way in which we can use these symbols, these traditions, to refocus our hearts on Christ, if we will choose to.
Right, exactly.
Right? And if we will listen, if we have eyes to see it.
Yeah, I think. For example, something that whenever life gets tough, whenever I'm struggling with something, or whenever I am battling with this sin, and I know the grace of God is there, the confession, all those great steps that we can take, but you're tired of fighting with the same sin. Say, God, why don't you just come, right? That's one way to ask for His coming back. And I don't think it's a bad one, because you want to be redeemed, right? But still, it's me focused, right? And I think Christmas is a little bit different, and it's more Him focused. And I would like to be there. And I think Christmas is an opportunity to be more like that. That is, come and rescue me, because I cannot live on this earth with all my sin and all the disappointments of this world and everything that is going on around. Right?
Yeah.
There is that, and I think there's something true and beautiful about it. But I think Christmas is more about we want to see you, we want to know you, we want to see how wonderful you are. It's all about Him. So that's what I'm saying. That mine has been developed more of get me out of here. but as you mentioned before, He is little by little redeeming us and changing us. And I can have glimpses of what that is in Christmas, but I'm sure there's more.
Absolutely. No, I so resonate with that, and that's really hopeful to me as well. Even to hear you describe it, at this point in life and ministry, that that growth is continuing.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think that maybe as a younger pastor, as a younger father, I felt a lot of pressure to get it right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We have to do it, right, because, and get it right quickly, because it was going to impact others. I think it bore the hubris that assumed we would be able to get it right.
Right.
As opposed to continually growing.
Yeah.
Continually seeing more of Him. And throughout all of our lives and our ministries, both our lives and our families, our extended families, and in the church, continue to grow to see every aspect of life, and particularly this time of year, the Christmas season, in light of His glory.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks for your honesty. Thanks for sharing. I think it's really helpful. It's really encouraging, and it also reminds me of the ways in which God is building all of us from our various different backgrounds and cultures towards the same vision,
right?
Which is Him. Yeah.
Amen.
It's really sweet. Well, thanks again. Thanks for your time this morning.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the opportunity to reflect. I know that as another piece of that tradition, a big portion of our family is going to be making tamales together next weekend.
That's right.
So Christ in everything, especially the tamales.
That's right.
Well, thanks again. Thanks, Jose, for your wisdom and for the ways in which you point me to Christ in every season, and particularly in this one.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think you do the same, not only for me, but for all of us. Yeah, it's the beauty of the body of Christ at work.
It sure is. Well, thanks, Jose, and thanks you all for listening. Thanks for being a part of this journey with us as well. We pray that this conversation will even spark your own reflections on Advent, your own reflections on your traditions, your background, the stories that have shaped you, and the ways in which God is reforming all of them to point to Christ, particularly this time of year. So thanks for listening. We love you, and we'll see you on Sunday.